Hey, welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I am Darren, I'm your host, and today I've got a couple of great guests I've had on before, Mr. Jason Logsdon of Amazing Food Made Easy and Mr. Mike LaChartie of the International Sous Vide Association. I'll be talking to them about all things sous vide and some other stuff. I'll be right back with Jason and Mike.
Smoking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Hey, all, I want to introduce you to a company I just started working with, Fresh Jack's Organic Spices out of Jacksonville, Florida. They're a small, family-run company that's fast-growing. I've tried a bunch of their different seasoning blends and spices, and I can tell you they're all fresh, all organic. None of them contain artificial flavors or sweeteners. None of them have anti-caking agents or preservatives. They all taste like they were just made for you yesterday. Check them out, guys. They're on Amazon in the link below. They have different sample packs, different blends. Like I said, and they also have the individual seasonings and spices as well. Fresh Jack's Organic Spices. Check them out, guys. I love them. Welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I am Darren. Of course, I am your host, as always. And I have a couple great guests that have been on a couple times with me before, and I always glad to have them on. I have Mr. Jason Logsdon of Amazing Food Made Easy, and I have Mike LaChartie of the International Sous Vide Association and his basement. So, Jason, tell us who you are, and then we'll go to Mike.
So I'm Jason Logsdon from Amazing Food Made Easy, and I'm the president of the ISVA. I've been sous videing for about a decade now, which is I feel like a long time till I talk to people like AJ Schaller from Crea and Gerard and David Petranzik, who have been doing it for 30 years at this point. I put out about a dozen cookbooks on sous vide, and I'm always I'm the face, the pretty face of the ISVA. Where Mike is the brains, I suppose that's all that's left for him.
Well, I do outrank you as CEO, and that is for a reason. So, and you really need to update your intro, because I think you've said you've been sous videing for a decade since we met, which has been 2.5 years.
Decade.
So
yeah.
it's more than that. I've been cooking sous vide, I think 5 years next month. So definitely don't have the wealth of experience that Jason has, and I can't talk as Purdy, which is why he hosts everything.
Are you doing anything special for your 5-year sous vide anniversary?
Is it on the calendar?
Yes.
Circled in a heart.
Yes. Well, my in-laws were supposed to come for Christmas. First time we've seen anybody since quarantine, and then cases started going up, so that got canceled. But she's the one who gave me my first circulator, so we were going to celebrate and cook all week up in the Pocono Mountains in a rental house, and now I'm going to have to just cook by myself.
Oh.
But
well,
yeah, it's fine. I'll make myself an anniversary burger or something.
Shocker.
So Jason's been sous videing for 10 years. I mean, you should be done by now. I mean, are you that tough?
Yeah, you'd think I'd be tenderized by now, but you can ask my wife. I'm still pretty rough around the edges.
Well, you did just get a haircut, so I mean, I'm glad of
Yeah.
that. So you were getting kind of shaggy there with this whole COVID thing going on. So
I knew I had to step up my game coming on here for your fans. They're used to the best of the best.
Oh, sure. That's why I don't shave and barely wear clothes. And like we were talking about earlier, I don't have any clothes on from the waist down.
Exactly.
So
hey, you were in I think your own room at the virtual summit on Friday night, but one of our illustrious guests showed up shirtless to the reception. So
Lloyd
exactly.
Cappuccio likes to. Every time I have him on the podcast, I tell him he's got to wear a shirt. And he always goes. He always wears like the tank top that just like looks like barely covers his nipples, but he loves it that way. So he just got himself a new big old chamber sealer from VacMaster, like the
big daddy.
Yeah, the Big Mac. He's, for the last 4 days, he's been vacuum sealing everything in his house, I think.
Yep.
I told him, I said, make sure you don't vacuum seal your wife, your daughter, or your dog. So anything else you can vacuum seal.
Exactly.
So I wanted to kind of talk about we talked about the Sous Vide Summit. All of us were there, and it was done virtually this year, of course, because of what's going on with the whole pandemic. But I think it turned out really well for something that you never, actually the second year that you've had the summit, but you had to do it totally different than you had done the year before. And I think it went, we had some glitches here and there with some of the software and stuff, and some of the people's internet connections weren't as great, but I think it went really well. How did the overall feedback that you guys got come out?
I think the majority of the feedback was great, and I think Mike and I were pleasantly surprised that the first in-person summit was so personable, and the connections that were formed and people hanging out and having a good time. It was more than just the demos and learning. It was a social experience. And so we were really worried, I think, about doing a virtual summit. And when we ended up at the end of it, there was that feeling of community, of giving each other a hard time in the comments when people were being interviewed and doing their presentations. And I think there's a lot of good connections still made, even though it was a virtual experience. So I know I was very happy that people still got a lot out of it and still made connections. And a lot of people expressed, their surprise as well, that they not only learned a lot, but they, made some new friends, and they got to know the presenters and, really connect in the comments and through some of the Q&As.
Yeah, it's a testament to just how amazing this community is. I mean, we've all been a part of the Sous Vide community in different ways for years, and it's just really cool to see how everybody, and that was really the onus for us even starting the summit, was to get people together and build that. So it was pretty awesome to see, and even the feedback from some of the speakers who have been doing this for a really long time, who shared just thoughts about how well it went, and how, I guess, surprised they were that it went well because of virtual conferences they've been to in the past. But that was really good for us to hear people like AJ and Gerard and Dave from Polyscience that just really had a great experience as well. So we're thrilled.
I think that's a testament to the overall the overall association, because a lot of us are enthusiasts. We're not, it's not something that's just our job and we do it because it's our job and we have to, kind of thing. Like I've been to conferences for, I'm a banker by trade, and I've been to banker conferences and stuff, and it's just not the same. I have no desire to go to those type of conferences and talk to people. I'm there because I have to be. And we may have that with a couple of these people, but even the people like David from Polyscience and Eric Villegas, those guys love what they do. I mean, they're not,
Yeah.
they're not there drudgingly because they have to be, because of, they get a paycheck out of it. Most of those people, even AJ and Gerard and everybody else, these people love what they do. They're excited about it. They love sharing it. So I think that's one of the main differences, is that everybody that's attending, and that's why we got a good attendance too. Some of those people that couldn't, probably go if it was in San Francisco, are able to go online. And that's another thing I want to talk about. So are you guys looking, we're looking for 2021 to be in San Francisco like it was supposed to be.
Yep.
Are you thinking of trying to do something online as well to have access to that?
So our plan right now, and we're moving full steam ahead with planning for San Francisco. My wife's like, "Why are you putting so much effort in if it's not going to happen?" And I really think it's going to. I really hope things, clean up to a point, but we need to make sure the event is what it needs to be. We're already working on that. We'll make a decision, in the late spring, March, April, depending
Right.
on things. But regardless, whether that happens in person or not, we are going to do a virtual conference in April, and it'll be a smaller version, probably a single day, or we're still working out the logistics on that. And then in San Francisco, we are planning to have some sort of a virtual component. We're still batting around kind of what that's going to look like, because but we do want to give people access. That's part of building this, is making sure everybody can participate, and we're inclusive in that way. So we're exploring a lot of different ways to make that happen.
Yeah, and it'd be kind of hard to do both at the same time because you'd have to have a lot more people involved, and Mike can't do everything all the time, right, Mike? So
I will say, over the last year, we've really, or not even the last 6 months, we've really been lucky to have some awesome people join and step up and really start helping. So we've got a guy named Seth who is running a lot of the logistics, and he and I are working together super close on all this stuff. And on the marketing side, James Bishada from JB Sous Vide has been doing a lot of the social media for us, and Lennis Perez, Lisa Keys are still very involved. So, it's, we have help now, which has been great because yeah, Jason and I can't do everything, the two of us.
yeah, and I jumped in and helped out on a lot of moderating some of the sessions on the virtual one, which I had a lot of fun doing that. It's maybe I wasn't the smoothest or most professional host sometimes, but it gave me something to do, while waiting, and instead of just sitting back and watching, and it made me feel more a part of it, to be able to sit there and say, hey, yeah, I stepped in and helped. So I think, like I said, since you have a lot of enthusiasts that are involved and not just, people that do it for a living, you're going to get people that are like, yeah, I'll help out because, I love what I'm doing. I love, helping other people out. So, I mean, that's
Yep.
literally what we're doing is we're helping people learn sous vide. And, you know, so the people that you're dealing with are people that love to help other people in the first place. So I
Yep.
think it turned out really well. I think everybody that participated, I don't think there was, a couple issues with, like I said, with, some people's internet connection wasn't quite right or the software issues. But as far as, the quality of the presentations and everything else were great. So I couldn't say anything bad about it at all. So
We appreciate that.
Absolutely. And those are all available as downloads. All the sessions. We have our Champions of Sous Vide community, and they're all in there. So if you sign up as a VIP member, you get access to all of the different showcase and everything we're doing. But they're available a la carte as well, and we're just kind of putting that system up. So if anybody didn't make it to the summit and wants to see Darren and Jason and everybody else with their fantastic presentations, definitely go to our website, and that information will be there.
And that's another thing I want to talk about too. So you guys just don't do the summit now. You're branching out a little bit, and you're doing some other things during the year to keep people, you know, interested in learning and teaching. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? I know, Jason, you do some of your stuff with your podcast and all that, and then you have the showcases. So
Yeah, so we've been doing the Exploring Sous Vide show. We really started it going into the conference last year when we wanted to highlight some of our speakers and build up some, some buzz around what we're doing. There's just as a home cook, I'm very excited about a lot of the people that we have presenting at the conference, like James Briccione, who's a Food Network star, and Rich Rosendale. And of course the illustrious Darren Wilson. There are these people that are really big deals, and so I'm really excited that they're a part of our community. And we thought we should highlight this by having, it's now a live interview show on Facebook Live where people can interact and ask them questions. So we got started with that, and we've kept it going now where we bring on some really fun people. We had Scott Heimendinger from the director of marketing for Anova, the Seattle Food Geek. He was just on. Chef David Petranzik doing an exclusive look at their new Hydro Pro circulator. So we bring on these people, and then we have people in our community are in the comments asking questions, contributing. It's very rare to be able to have a chance to ask people like this questions and kind of pick their brains. And so it's been really fun for me to sit down with some of the people that I really respect what they're doing and just ask them whatever the heck I want for an hour. And Darren helps me out, and Mike helps me out with some really good questions in the comments when I'm starting to struggle, and they give me some good things to keep the conversation going and really get the most out of some of these guests. So that's every Thursday, normally at 3:30 or 6:30, depending on who the guest is. And you can find that on theisva.net/live, I think is what goes there. And It's a great way to kind of see some of these luminaries. We have a bunch that we're just reached out to that are looking at coming on the show in the next few months as well.
Well, they can also find it on Amazing Food Made Easy Facebook page, Exploring Sous Vide Facebook group. So I always share it to my group and my page as well. Um, Now, see, back when we first had you guys on and I first started my podcast, you kind of didn't understand why when I first started doing my podcast, I was like, oh, I'll kind of see, what this does. And one of the things I don't like about, podcasts is the people that just sit there and talk, themselves, just sit there and talk and yammer to, whoever's out there. I always got to have somebody to bounce stuff off of. I just don't feel comfortable. And I've done a couple episodes where I just try to talk and have nothing to interact with. And I don't like that at all. What I love about doing podcasts is being able to pick the brains of those people that I respect and I've followed for years. And when I had Kenji on and Meathead a couple times and Steve Reichland and some of these others that I've looked up to and followed for years, to be able to ask them questions, not just about their professional life, but some of the things I like to ask is, where did you start? I mean, when you were a kid, what did you think of, or what did you think you were going to be doing now, and how did you get to where you are? Those are the most interesting things to me, because you just find out, you know, you don't, some of the things you never knew. Like, I would have thought Kenji went to culinary school and just a straight path, through all that, but he started out as an architecture graduate, and then worked in the restaurants part-time, and then he fell in love with that and decided to do that for a living. So that's what I really love about doing these type of shows is, the interaction and figuring out and finding out and then learning. So, and Mike, what about you?
Yeah, it's I agree with you for sure. And so one of the other things that we're working on to continue to build that engagement, this was another Jason, he talks all the time about I'm the brains, but man, he comes
Well,
up
we
with,
know Jason talks all the time. So.
yeah, it's true.
Yep.
It's true. But I mean, he's beautiful, so he can.
I've got the moneymaker,
Smile.
He came up with this idea to start doing showcases of different aspects of sous vide. So our first one was sous vide infusions. Next weekend we are doing a sous vide dessert showcase, and basically we invite different chefs and home cooks to prepare a demo of their favorite recipe or using sous vide for that theme. And I think last time we had 8, and we have 8 or 9 this time. And it's just really fun to see how different people are using the technique. I know for the dessert showcase, Lisa Keys did a full like chocolate layer cake, all sous vide, baked the cake sous vide, and did this Nutella frosting, and it just looks incredible. And then we're also using those to highlight different companies. So we have one coming up in December that's going to be for a local farm that's here in Maryland that I've bought from for a really long time, and they are going to be launching online delivery. So we're doing a showcase of all their different meats. They carry everything from rabbit to chicken, beef, pork. So that's been really fun too, just a way to kind of engage the community. And part of it too is there's so many great voices in this community that they don't have a platform. I mean, you've done a great job of building a platform for yourself and for others that use, especially smoking and grilling with sous vide. But there's a lot that post that either don't have the time or they haven't just had the interest in building that. So trying to reach out to some of those people and give them a platform to share what they do and what they know. And I mean, it's where we found David LaForce, who's now helping us with a lot of content. And Kevin and Carmen Koo, of course, have their own blog, but they've been doing a lot of stuff with us as well. So it's just been really fun to kind of bring the community together and learn from each other.
Yeah. And I like, I guess I can be competitive sometimes, but I don't find when it's something like this that I really like doing and talking about and getting involved in, I'm not really competitive. I like to promote. I mean, when I first watched Kevin and Carmen's, first couple of their videos, I knew they were going to be big. And I reached out to them and said, hey, you guys are awesome. Anything you need from me to help you out. And they've blown past. Their YouTube channel's got a lot more followers than I do now. And I
They're
expected
incredible.
that. Yeah, because their personalities are just, I'm first to admit I'm not the most personable YouTube person out there.
That is
So,
for sure.
but I'm first one to admit that. I do it because I like to do it. I don't care. I'm not, I'm not trying to be famous. I'm just out there, I do my videos to kind of show people what I do. And, I'm not one sitting there counting how many subscribers I have or anything like that. And that's how I started the podcast. I did it more so I could not just expand my brand, but so I could learn more and have people on and expose them to other people. That's why I like having Kevin and Lloyd on, because, they're in the Facebook groups all the time, but, that's limited exposure. When you can get them on and actually see them and talk to them and, hear their voices, and then, the back and forth banter that we have sometimes is, to me, the most fun part. And we can get into this stuff that we really love to talk about.
But yeah, I agree with you. It's super fun to be able to get people together and see what they're doing. I mean, Carmen and Kevin did a pumpkin cheesecake, a whole one sous vide, and I was like mind blown. And so I did that recipe last week. Of course, I used the Anova precision oven, which is a lot easier than trying to vacuum seal it. But it turned out fantastic. And I mean, that turkey they just posted, deboning the whole thing and stuffing it, my God.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like is I always, not being a chef or classically trained in any way, I always held chefs up to this kind of like high regard of their knowledge and the types of things that they do. And there are some that do some really amazing things. But it's been fascinating talking to people like Chef David Petranzik, who learned so much from home cooks. That, I talked to him about Lisa Keys on the Exploring Sous Vide show and the layer cake that she's doing. And he's like, oh, is she doing like the frosting in sous vide? And it's like, no, she's doing the entire cake sous vide. And he's like, tell me more about this. I want to see this video. Like, what is that? And he's been sous videing for 15 years. He works with some of the best chefs in the world, and he's learning stuff from home cooks that are applying this technology in new ways. And it's so apparent to me that everyone has something to offer this community, whether you're a professional chef or a home cook. There's so much exchange of information that's just amazing to me.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I like about our our group, is that it does combine people that do it professionally and the people that are like crazy people like us that just love to do it. We take the initiative and experiment and try new things, and where they most of the time can't, they have to, if they're working in a restaurant, they got to kind of make, like you said, they're doing it for service, and they got to make it look the same, and they really don't have a whole lot of room to play around with. But you know uh we have that ability to try new things or see what somebody else did, and then say, well, I could put my own twist on that and try to make it something else. So that's the fun I get in doing this stuff too. So I mean, I just made for the book I'm writing, Jason's been helping me out a lot with that. But I had, I'm working with a spice company that's going to co-sponsor it with me, and they asked me to do a couple vegetarian or vegan type recipes, because they cater to a lot, a lot of their customers are vegetarians or vegans, the owners are. So I said sure, and it made me actually look where I never looked before, because most of the times I'm doing meat. It's barbecue and smoking and grilling and sous vide and meat. And so I opened up my eyes a little bit. Hopefully the book's going to be released early December, mid-December, before Christmas. So
Having seen a bunch of the sneak previews of the book and looked through it, I definitely am excited to see it in its completed form, and I can give it a good preview. Wholehearted thumbs up that if you're interested in sous vide and barbecue or smoking and how you can combine those two methods, it's a great overview of the information that's out there. It seems it's very accessible, that it's providing Darren's point of view and his knowledge, while also saying, this is like the source that I got my information from. If you really want to dive in, you can go here and get more information. And then a nice range of recipes that covers, all aspects of what he's talking about. So I'm very impressed, and I'm excited to see it in its completed form when it's in my hand.
Yeah, it was fun putting it together. And like I said, I like to I'm never going to say I discovered this method or that. I just like to move things around and kind of put my own twist on things I've already seen. And a lot of your stuff that I've read and watched and seen over the years, Meathead Goldwyn, some of these others that I've followed, even just regular YouTube people that just throw stuff out there. And that's how I got into this in the first place, watching a guy on the YouTube channel, Greg Mervich, who sous vide a brisket, 5 or 6 years ago. And that, got me interested in doing this stuff. So if I had never saw that video, I never would even attempted to do any of this stuff. So it's things like that that excite me. And I just hope that I can do the same to other people, help teach them, inspire them, show them some things that maybe they didn't know before. So, and get them in touch with people like you and Meathead and some of these other people that have all this information out there, and it's, and use it.
It's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see it. I've been, I think, working on my book longer than you've been working on yours, and I'm not nearly close to publishing yet. So I'm impressed with the speed at which you have compiled it. I can't wait to see it.
Well, the easiest part of it was because a lot of the stuff, since I was doing YouTube videos and all this stuff before, I had all the material there. I just had to kind of throw it all together into a book form. So a lot of the recipes are things that I've done in the past, I've experimented with. Now the second one I probably do will probably be a lot harder. It just, this one kind of spilled out because I already had a lot of the material. And I guess that's the funnest part of writing a book. If it's something that you're excited about and just want to get out there, it's like throwing up on a page. It's just,
Yep.
you want to get it all out there and try to put it in the words that people will understand.
No, I was just going to say, for all of the other would-be cookbook authors who are watching, Jason has an awesome self-publishing course that he's about to release, so you too can get your cookbook out on the Amazon shelves.
Yeah, and Jason's
Yeah.
helped me out a lot, and that's we've gone back and forth a few times on some ideas, and he's definitely got. I've had a sneak peek of the course, and it's really good. Goes into a lot of stuff, and it's a lot easier than most people think. I've talked to some other people, and it's everybody thinks of you got to have a publisher, you got to buy a warehouse full of books, and try to sell them out of your back of your car, or get them into the Barnes and Noble or something. But with the way the business is nowadays, it's really easy to publish on your own, get it exposed out there on Amazon and some other places. And I think that course, it's got a lot of potential for people. Going to be a lot more cookbooks being written, Jason, because of your program out there.
I appreciate your help in helping me make sure that I'm covering a lot of the stuff. I've enjoyed putting it together. I've self-published 12 books and traditionally published a few, and I just thought it was good to kind of share my expertise in that area and try to help some other people out there. People like you, people like Lloyd, that have like content out there, are interested in maybe putting out a book. That it is something you can put together and you can do yourself. And Darren can put a link in the show notes to the course. It's out now. Or you can go to makethatbacon.com/fire and water publish. And that will use Darren's affiliate link, which we'll be sure to set up before this podcast goes live. But it's out there. It's to try to help people that are interested in putting out a cookbook that's, a printed book on Amazon that you can hold in your hand and, take a picture of yourself with, smiling away. Because people think putting out a cookbook's hard and writing it can be hard, but if you have that content, the publishing part these days is pretty easy and it's not that expensive. You just need to dive in and kind of have the knowledge, and I'm trying to help share that knowledge so people can do it a little more easily.
All right, so let's talk about some other things that are going on nowadays. I like talking about technology for pretty much everybody that comes on, because it just blows my mind in the last just the last 5 or 6 years, how technology has really affected every part of our lives, including outdoor cooking and indoor cooking. And even just this year, with 2020 being a big mess, no matter with everything else that's going on in 2020, there's still some great products and new things coming out for both outdoor and indoor cooking. So we can talk about the Anova precision oven that they've just released, and they're selling like hotcakes. I know that Mike has one. Jason doesn't have one yet because he doesn't have any room.
I live in a New York apartment that it'd take up half of my counter space literally if I do it. So it's my wife doesn't cook, but the kitchen is a central area in our 2-bedroom apartment. So it's whether or not I can convince her that I should get rid of half the space in the kitchen, which will be we'll see if I can win that battle.
So worth it though.
So some of these things, especially with the Anova precision oven, I mean, it's really phenomenal because Combi steam ovens, have been out there for a while on the commercial side in the restaurants, and they do some phenomenal things. And I know that in your area, Jason, in New York City, when they had the big controversy with sous vide a few years back, and the health department came in and pretty much banned sous vide cooking in the restaurants, they all kind of switched to Combi steam ovens, which cook similarly to sous vide. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's one of the things that people are really fighting over now is, what they do, the Combi steam oven, is can they be considered sous vide?
My viewpoint on a lot of this is that words are just kind of words, and like having talked to Gerard and Bruno Gasol, who literally invented the term sous vide, like when they said sous vide, they didn't do it with this long lasting 50 years from now, this is what sous vide will mean. They named it because it was convenient shorthand for one of the steps in the process. So if people want to argue about what constitutes sous vide and doesn't, I'm fine with that. Um, for me, I think Anova made a smart decision. Like Scott said, that they now say it can do results that are similar to sous vide or sous vide like results. So they kind of remove themselves from the argument with the Combi oven. But to me, the big thing about the big benefit of sous vide cooking, whatever you define it as, is that it's the low temperature precision control. It's being able to hold something at a specific temperature for a long period of time. And to me, that's a differentiating factor between it and any other type of cooking. And so you can do that by vacuum sealing it. You can do that in a Ziploc bag. You can do it by filling a chamber with steam. But it's that the precision to temperature, which in my opinion is what makes the food taste the way that it tastes. And the rest, you can argue about what type of packaging you should have on it. But that, to me, I've never been able to tell the difference between a Ziploc sealed versus a chamber vacuum sealed, strip steak or something.
Yeah, and you don't just have that in the sous vide world. In the barbecue world, all the time you get, is it really called barbecue if it's on a pellet grill? Because it's controlled by, and it's pellets, it's not real wood, it's sawdust. And these kind of arguments are just kind of silly to me, because it's the end result or the process is what you're talking about. So you're telling me it's not smoking, even though it's in a chamber and it's being smoked, because it's not real wood now. So I mean, no,
as my buddy from North Carolina says, barbecue is pork shoulder that's been smoked with a mustard sauce. Everything else is just you're grilling something or smoking it, but it's not barbecue. Like, right. Okay, Sean, I will never use that term around you again.
Yeah, I mean, I think having those kind of arguments is just kind of ridiculous and just takes away from other things you could be doing and talking about. I'm with you 100%. Sous vide to me, when I looked at it, I didn't go, "Oh wow, a water bath in a bag." It was precise temperature control. What I can do with it by using precise temperature control, whether it's in a water bath or whatever. People want to fight over the stupidest little things, and really, it's like you said, it's precise temperature control that is going to get you to the end result that you're looking for, and that's what it's all about, and it's what it should be all about. However you get there. I think, I've had my oven now for about 2 weeks now, and I've cooked some things that I've, cooked sous vide before and tried it on the oven. I can see where, it can do some things similar, but I cooked some New York strips last night, and my wife said, "Oh, your ones you usually do in the sous vide always, kind of taste better, and the texture was better." So it might not be the same, but it's very similar, and I think to argue the semantics is kind of silly to me. And I know that the Combi ovens can do some things that you can't do in a water bath. So
yeah, my experience thus far. So one thing that helped me, and I think Scott said this, there was a really interesting conversation about relative humidity, most of which went over my head. But essentially what the combi oven is mimicking is the conditions inside the bag. It's not, and that was something I didn't really think about or understand. It's not trying to take the place of the water bath. It's trying to mimic the conditions inside the bag and the way the food responds to the humidity. I mean, I've done everything from sous vide oatmeal and cheesecakes in mason jars to a full cheesecake that was great. I didn't have to vacuum seal it. Turkey roulades, and I would be hard pressed to tell the difference with a lot of it on whether it was cooked in my water bath or in the oven personally. So, I mean, I've been really happy with the results, and it's definitely, I still use the water bath for long cooks. I just did a 48-hour pork shoulder that, of course, still went in the bath, and um, I've used it for a bunch of stuff still. But it's the convenience of being able to just like pop a pan of rice in the oven and not have to stir it, and not have to look at it, or be able to cook a cheesecake and not have to deal with a separate water bath in the oven, and it comes out perfect with no cracks on top. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to play with for sure.
It's not going to replace it. I mean, it can
Hmm.
if you want to,
Yeah.
just like, if you're like, Jason, you got very limited room and it's either I have a water bath or I have this. I would probably pick the oven because it can do a lot more. I can do a lot more with that oven than I can a water bath, because I can actually sear in the oven. I can air fry in that oven. I don't have to
Yep.
have the steam on. So there's a lot of things I can do, and that's kind of why I got it. I didn't get this from Anova. They didn't give it to me. I paid for it out of my own money,
Same.
and because I wanted to play around with it, and I saw the potential with other things I could do with it, that not just replacing a sous vide bath. Because,
Yeah.
like you, I think it can if I wanted it to, but there's some things I'm still going to cook sous vide anyway. And but it can do some other things, phenomenally. I've cooked some stuff, using as an air fryer. It worked great. I've cooked some stuff in a bag in it, and it worked great. The internal probe, works really well.
Yep.
So you can cook things to an internal temperature now that's inside an oven that it monitors it for you. So, I mean, so there are some things that this thing can do, and it's priced really well. And
Yeah.
it's the only, affordable countertop combi oven that can measure wet bulb temperature out there. So there's nothing else like it.
I'm actually really excited for Thanksgiving. I ordered a smaller turkey. This is just going to be us. And I'm going to do the whole turkey in the oven on sous vide mode, so it'll have all the humidity. You don't have to worry about filling the bag with stock because everything can get inside. So, and even things like, your oven at home can only go so low. And this thing, because it cooks with the sous vide mode, um, it goes down to what, I think 78 Fahrenheit or something like that. So you can do things like dehydrating that now I don't need a countertop dehydrator. There's a lot of flexibility to it that I'm excited to play with.
Well, you
Proof
can
and dough.
Yeah.
defrost in it too. Yeah, and proof dough. And
Proof dough
you
for
know
sure.
the bread bakers are really excited out there because of
Yeah.
the steam finish you can get on it.
Yeah.
And
It's well worth getting, for the amount I've used it already. I've probably used it more than most things I spend that amount of money on.
for the sheer versatility of it
It,
is
it
just
exactly. And you're buying from a good brand. I mean, Innova's been around a long time. You hear stories all the time about how they take care of their circulators if they go bad, and they replace them even after warranty and all that. So I did a lot of times I am very tentative about buying first release stuff. But I have confidence in them that if something goes wrong, which nothing has happened on mine yet, but if it does, I know they're going to take care of it. So, you
right.
know, I-
Well, and they're owned by Electrolux now, and a lot of the technology they got into this oven came from Electrolux. So
yeah,
it's not like, it's not a Kickstarter. It's not something that they've never, you know, they were a Kickstarter when they first came out, now, but they're part of Electrolux now, and they have a big company behind them with a lot of experience and technology and resources. And if something goes wrong, they're going to make sure. I mean, it's got a 2-year warranty on it. I mean,
yep,
just like all their products, so they're confident that even if something goes wrong, just
I
file a
would also
warranty.
say like for me, it's very encouraging having Scott there. Like Scott
Yeah.
Heimendinger, I've followed since I got into this. The Sancerre is probably my favorite circulator, which he was one of the co-founders of. Like, I feel like his name brings a lot of credibility to Anova and to their products that I don't think he would personally feel comfortable putting out something that's not high quality, and that my knowledge of that makes me much more likely to buy something from them, just because I don't think he'd be willing to put his name on the line for something that wasn't high quality.
Well, and he's like us. He's a enthusiast first. I mean, he was another guy when I had him on my podcast. He started out in software programming. That's what he did for a living. He just kind of fell into, talking modernist cuisine into hiring him because he loved to cook and he loved going over there and playing around and working with them. He just wasn't getting paid. And then he said, "Hey, well, can I come over here and like work for you guys?" And then, so it's very rare when somebody can actually do something that they really love to do and get paid for it. And he's one of those guys. And when you talk to him, you've had him on your show and I had him on mine. I mean, he just loves to go down the rabbit hole, and he just, he loves this stuff. It's something that he's passionate about. It's not just well, I went to school and learned this stuff and I got to tell everybody I'm so smart. No, he's really passionate, and he put his heart and soul into this thing, and you can tell that. And
Hey, all, I want to welcome back Inkbird Products as a sponsor of the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. Inkbird makes many great different temperature controllers, thermometers, all kinds of time and temp controllers. But one of the best things that they make is their new Sous Vide circulator that includes Wi-Fi, 1,000 watts of power, and super quiet at a really affordable price. It's one of my top picks for a budget Sous Vide circulator for people who are just getting started. Make sure you check it out in the link below. Check out Inkbird. Welcome back, Inkbird Products, to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast.
Well, what else you guys want to talk about? So that was one of the things too. So, we kind of talked about this, hit on it before we started recording, Mike. So the ISVA is going to include some Combi cooking stuff, right? We're only going to be cooking in a vacuum bag and a water bath for the ISVA.
Our official mission, is we updated it because of the controversy around the Anova steam ovens. Like I've been using Combi ovens at conferences and stuff, and at the CREA class before Anova was even thinking about doing them. And so our official mission is to promote sous vide and other low temperature precision techniques. That if it's low temperature precision, that's what we're talking about. And it doesn't matter if you want to say sous vide's different than a Combi oven. Great. We're including all things that have these similar results, and we want to be inclusive of the different technologies you can do to put out food that is similar in texture, similar in control, and kind of similar in flavor.
Yep. And I can hear all the people in the comments. Well, crock pots are low temperature. No, they're not, and they're not precision. So relax, everybody.
Although they used to use them, and I'm sure Jason actually probably made one.
Oh yeah,
that was your first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had the Sous Vide Magic Sous Vide temperature controller. When you plug your crock pot in it basically turns your crock pot on and off to maintain temperature. That's low temperature precision.
I was looking at your list on the Amazing Food Made Easy website because they benchmark everything, and I love the detail your dad goes into with all that. But I'm like updating our approved devices page. Okay, what has hit our criteria that I haven't put on here yet? And I get to the Sous Vide Magic, and it's like time to heat from 140 to 180, 1 hour and 52 minutes. And I'm like, man, we've come a long way in 10 years.
I had a super amazing crock pot, let me tell you. But this is a good discussion, because this is something that I don't know crock pot brands at all. Like I know pressure cooker brands because of Instapot, but like if a slow cooker comes out and says, hey, this whole sous vide, like whatever, is like the craze is great. Our crock pot now holds food to within 1 degree, let's say Fahrenheit, and you still need to use it like you normally do with putting in a bunch of liquid, and it's basically a braise. Like, to me, that is now a low temperature precision technique if it can hold that temperature, because if you can do medium rare chuck roast and cook it long enough to tenderize it in an environment that's low temperature precision. And that's closer to a sous vide result than it is to a braised result or a traditional crock pot result. So that's where I think that low temperature precision comes in, that if you can maintain a temperature, you can get results, with nothing else, that with no other cooking techniques.
Well, it's interesting too. Sorry, Darren. I'm thinking as you say that, like isn't that the sous vide supreme? One of the main benefits of having one of those is you can fill the chamber with something else to infuse or to cook. I mean, you could oil poach in there at a low temperature. I mean, heck, with the Anova oven, why couldn't you put a container of oil in there and then poach something in it? That's, once it comes to equilibrium. I mean, there's tons of ways you could experiment with that, I think, and do different things. There's a restaurant in New York that does its prime rib in a sous vide bath with beef tallow, right? So
one of the best pieces of salmon I ever had was at Star Chefs. They had the Polyscience Control Freak, which allows you to basically cook sous vide with any liquid in a pot as a low temperature precision induction device. And they did chili pepper infused olive oil that they then poached salmon in at a specific temperature. And it was just like melt in your mouth, typical sous vide salmon, but like poached completely in oil that was flavored with these smoky, like spicy, fruity, really flavorful chili peppers.
Now you guys are just talking crazy talk because none of that stuff is sous vide. No, I'm kidding.
That's right, but it's delicious, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board. Well, I think there are some crock pot type devices that have like a sous vide mode. I've seen some, they have multiple, functions, and one of them is a sous vide mode. Now they do want you to use water bath, in it, but that's the thing with technology, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you, Jason, because if you do go to your website, some of the, ranking the circulators anymore is kind of, how do you keep up? There's so many of them. They change so often with the new technologies that are coming out. Like, even with, with Anova, they've changed their models 6 or 7 times in the last couple of years. And now you got, with the precision oven and other things that are out there. How are you going to try to keep up with all that stuff?
So it's definitely hard, especially with a machine that if it's done right, there's not a lot of differentiation, right? Like if a sous vide device that heats relatively quickly and can maintain temperatures within, call it half a degree, like at that point, they're all basically the same in a lot of cases. So what I like to say is that you could pick up something for $40 at, Walgreens or Costco or whatever, but spending a little bit of money to get a brand name that's going to stand behind it. Like, we test a ton of machines, and to do that, we see what machines are coming out. We reach out to the people at these companies and say, can we have a machine to test so we can put it through the paces? And a lot of the inexpensive ones we don't test. Why is that? Because there's not a company behind it. It's someone that's buying them off of Alibaba in bulk, and they're reselling them under their own brand. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a small business entrepreneur as well. Like, great, more power to you. But if that machine breaks, they don't care if it broke for you. Where if an Anova breaks, you can get a hold of Cole Waggoner and you can get a hold of Scott Heimendinger. They are online. You can say, Cole, what the heck just happened here? And like, people do that. If your Polyscience breaks, you can get a hold of David Petranzik and say, David, what the heck? The Vesta, you have Chelsea Cole. With Backmaster, you have Eric Villegas. Like, there are faces and companies behind these brands. And to me, that's worth it. If nothing breaks, it doesn't matter in a lot of cases what circulator you have. But if things start to go wrong, then you want a company that's going to stand behind their product and make sure you get the best out of it. And it's amazing to me talking to some people that even have companies behind it. You're like, so what went into this circulator? They're like, well, we want to, maintain precise temperature. So we did this. And you're like, yeah, you're doing a sous vide machine. Of course you freaking wanted that, you idiot. Like, what are you saying? And then we had David Petranzik on from Polyscience demoing their new device. And he's like, so for the carrying case, we tried 8 different carrying cases, and this is the one we liked. And for the clamp, we had a 4-day argument about what clamp we wanted and went through 14 different clamps to see what made the most sense. And we did this and we did that. And you're like,
they passed the peanut butter test.
They passed the peanut butter test. Like, they care so much about their machine. They put so much into it. And talking to him, I interviewed Chris Young from when he was still at Jewel. Like the same thing, they put in all this thought and energy and effort into creating a device that's going to last, which we all complain, they don't make machines now like they used to, that they're not built to last. Like some of these companies are building something to last. And I'd rather support a company like that that's doing something right and that's putting out a machine that is a solid, great machine that people put care and consideration into, than one that just they were trying to have the cheapest machine possible so people could save, a few bucks.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when people ask me which sous vide circulator should I buy. There's a couple that I suggest, and they'll always bring up the Guga Guinga, that's it's got 3 stars on Amazon with 4 reviews, and it's like, okay, those are cheap for a reason. Spend an extra $20 and get something that you know. People look at, well, because I like to promote the Inkbird. Well, I've dealt with the people at Inkbird, and I've had a couple issues with some of their products. Whenever I have it, I just say, "Hey, this broke." Boom, they send you a new one right away. No
Yep.
questions asked. That's what you're looking for. You don't want to have to go through, plug it in, turn it on. Did you do this? Did you do that? Have to go through 6 hours of waiting on hold for customer service. You want somebody to go, yeah, sounds like a problem. Just send it back and we'll send you a new one. Or you don't have an issue with it. So,
Yeah. Spend $500 on the new Hydro Pro from Polyscience, and you can worry about buying a new one in a decade. Like you don't have to buy any in the meantime because it's going to last you for 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah,
And by the way, the whole app is built into the circulator too. You don't even need your phone to look things up anymore.
Well, and that's another thing, people will always try to, and nobody wants to spend the most money on something, not everybody wants to buy a Mercedes, because they can't afford it. And, that's kind of silly to expect everybody to, but there are some things that you need to look at and say, should I spend an extra 10 or $20 on something that's going to last? Not everybody can afford a chamber vacuum sealer, but nowadays, and that's another thing with all this technology and things changing and new processes and stuff coming out. I mean, now you can get a chamber sealer, a decent one. It's not the biggest in the world, but for $300 you can get a chamber sealer. That I've worked with Avid Armor before, and they're always stand behind everything that they sell. And you couldn't have done that 3 or 4 years ago. It was 800 to 1,000 plus for an entry level chamber sealer. And there's, so with not just the changing in the technology, but making things with better quality cheaper and more expensive or more affordable for people that want to get something a little bit better. So I just
I was just going to say, I mean, Dave talking about, the Hydro Pro last night, and he's like, this has more wattage and more circulation power than our initial model, and it's $499. I mean, it's mind blowing and it's fully waterproof. It's got all of the standard stuff you'd need in a restaurant. I mean, it's amazing what these companies are doing. And Dave's like, they trusted me to be so invested in this design process, and he's been cooking sous vide forever. So it was put together by people who really care about it, and who want to make sure that it works, because it's their reputation on the line.
Exactly. But like I say, yeah, manufacturing processes change. I mean, I remember when plasma TVs were, $5,000 for a 30-inch one. And now, and the technology is so much better and they're so much cheaper, so it's not just that they're cheaper, they're the better, they work better. They, last longer, so that's the good thing with a lot of this stuff. So, well, and I'm hoping that the precision oven, I've had really good luck with it so far, and I know you have too, Mike. And it's something where you can do a lot with it and learn and keep doing experimenting and other things. So it's fun for me, and it's fun for people like me and you guys. So, but what else you guys want to talk about? I know that the ISVA, we're going to do the summit in July. And it's still slated for San Francisco this year, correct?
Yep. And we're working really hard to make it, the first year there was just so much awesome stuff that happened, and the food, and we're working really hard to, like, how do you improve on that? Just to make it a really premier event. I mean, more food throughout the weekend. We are contemplating making Saturday mostly demo sessions with samples all throughout the day, a lot of things like that to really make it an awesome experience. So
It's no fun just watching Chef Justice Stewart make ostrich on stage if you can't taste ostrich when you're sitting in the audience.
yeah, it
Now,
was goose and kangaroo, but close enough.
now is Crea going to be involved again and Cuisine Solutions?
We've been in
I,
talks with them, and they've we're still narrowing down specifics, but they're definitely have said that they're interested and they want to be involved in working with the ISVA at the conference and the virtual conferences. So they've been an amazing partner and someone that really helped give us the credibility we needed to get some of our other sponsors, and they helped make that first in-person conference amazing with their food and their professionalism and the knowledge that they shared.
Yep, they set the bar. I mean, really, they helped us set the bar for continually trying to improve. I mean, it's a high bar that we have to reach in large part because of all the contributions they made.
So what do we have to look forward to in the virtual summit that you got planned coming up in the spring?
So still working on that, and trying to figure out what exactly we want the format to be. So we'll have more info on that in the next, couple of months, probably before the end of the year. But we've been really focused on making sure San Francisco was set and good to go. And then we've been working on the showcases as well. So check with us in January, and we'll have a better idea of the agenda and kind of what to expect with that one.
Cool.
One of the things that's exciting for me is that getting started, we really relied a lot on my network as in the Sous Vide community and reaching out to people for speakers and for people doing demos, and doing these monthly showcases has allowed us to branch out a lot more and bring in new people that we don't know and that we've never worked with before, that come from more diverse backgrounds and are really just adding to our community of content creators and of chefs and home cooks that are interested in sharing information. So I'm really excited to see these new voices come up, and then our virtual conference won't be us trying to fill slots. It'll be us taking, 40 people and we need 20. So which of these, like which 20 of the good presenters are we going to have to get rid of because we have too many good presenters? And same with the in-person, that it allows us to really bring the cream of the crop out there and make sure that, taking what I think was very good content at our first two summits and making that, just exceptional content instead of just very good. And I think that's going to make us stronger overall and our conferences stronger overall. And doing those monthly showcases also gives us a platform to bring in new people that might not be ready for a 45-minute, demo in front of 300 people at a conference, but they are ready to, cook on camera. They're ready to get in front of people and start expanding and give them opportunities that isn't just kind of throwing them in the fire in front of a big group.
So to me, what he just said, Mike, was that Darren, you're not going to have a spot.
You'll always have a spot there.
You're on our list. You definitely have a spot. But it's been interesting even for somebody like me, because I'm an event planner, right? I'm the guy behind the scenes. I don't love, you guys both know, I don't love being in front of people, and the showcases have been a cool. I mean, I did a demo for the last one, and I'm doing a pie for the dessert one. So it's been fun just for me to sort of play around and get to do something different that isn't necessarily my core comfort zone.
Well, when I started doing this, I got out of my comfort zone. And once you do, I mean, you have a lot more fun. When I first started doing the podcast, I was the same way. It's like, people are going to even want to listen to me. And then the first couple, comments that I got was, man, you really asked some great questions. And I really, and from people that I respect and trust their opinion. And they're like, you're not just saying that. And they're like, no, man, you do a great job. So, I mean, I think if we don't do that, get out of our comfort zone every once in a while, we don't grow, and we're never gonna, have as much fun as we could. If I didn't start any of this stuff, I'd, probably be miserable just doing my job and, playing with my kids and that stuff.
Jason would still be programming websites. Oh my gosh.
I do think that's such a valuable message to get across, is that like your community is a community of people that cook. If they're interested in demoing things and getting out of their comfort zone, like get a hold of me and Mike. We have these showcases. We're looking for people that have don't have a blog, that don't have a following, that aren't out there like that, but just cook and enjoy what they're doing. And everyone looks at me and they're like, "Oh, you're like so natural on camera and you're so good at this stuff." And anyone that's known me for more than 5 years is like, "Wait a minute, you're on camera talking? Why would you ever be on there?"
That's me
Because
too. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the more you do it, the better you get at it. And it's a skill. I didn't sit down and know how to cook, 15 years ago when I started cooking. I had to learn and I had to work and get better and better. And it's the same thing with being on camera, doing demos. And so if you're out there listening and you're like, I've always thought about maybe I could share this recipe that I love, do it. Get a hold of me and Mike, reach out to us, get a hold of Darren, like spread your wings, try things, get out of your comfort zone and just have fun. And you can do it. Like believe in yourself.
Yep. And just to whet the appetites a little bit, a few of the showcases, specifically for the Fire and Water group, we have a barbecue showcase coming in 2021. We have a burger showcase coming. We have party and tailgate foods. We have cuisines of the world, comfort foods. So lots of just really fun topics. And even if there's a recipe that you want to do that doesn't, let's say, hey, we already did desserts and you've got a great dessert recipe, still come and talk to us and we'll make something happen. We love trying new things and interacting with different people in the community. So
David LaForce is looking for more recipes to put in the network and get out there. Like we have lots of opportunities for content creators, that home cooks, that you have a few recipes that you love and you just want to share and see what people think of it.
Yep.
We have a lot of opportunities to get you in front of a larger group of people and help you learn what it means to create recipes professionally, to do demos, to speak, to do these kind of things. We want to not only raise up Sous Vide, we also want to raise up the people that are a part of this community, because the more we learn, the more we get better, and the better the community as a whole is.
Well, and then you get to eat whatever you cook.
Amen.
So that's the reward of it. You're not just having fun and learning things and teaching people stuff. You get to eat it at the end. So that's why I always love cooking, because I can sit there and create something and then I get to eat it when I'm all done. So, well, guys, I want to thank you for being on again, and I really appreciate what you have put together and all the opportunities that you give everybody to get involved in the International Sous Vide Association and everything that you do. Jason, you've been open to me ever since I started, and you're always there to help pull people up and bring them up there with you, instead of being competitive and looking down your nose at anybody. I mean, it's really inspiring to me to do that, and I try to do that as much as possible as well, and try to bring everybody up with us and teach them and show them how to make great food. And Mike, as well, I know you're sitting there in your basement, but it's
this is where I live. Pretty much.
It's a great thing you guys put together, and I really appreciate it. And there are lots of other people out there that do, and I look forward to participating much more in 2021. And I look forward to having you guys on again soon. We'll talk about the next virtual summit as well.
I like it. It's always great coming on your show, and we really appreciate everything you've done for the ISVA. That's one of the things that's fun about helping people, is like you were like, I'm starting a podcast a few years ago. We're like, oh, help you talk about your Facebook group and stuff like that. And now you're a big brand in your own right, putting out a cookbook, and you're now giving back and raising other people up and supporting the community. And it's great to see. Like that's why Mike and I are doing this, is because we love seeing people succeed and do amazing things. And you're a great example of how people that do that then help other people succeed. And it's making everything better for everyone.
Yep.
Yeah,
Amen.
I think so too. And that's why I started doing this. Is not just, I'm not a very big egotist at all. I don't care about what people think of me, as long as I try to show people and bring them up and say, hey, look, you guys can do this too, because I used to be that way and didn't think I could do anything. But now, once you start doing some stuff, hey, do a YouTube video, just do it,
Yep.
just do the Nike commercial and just do it. Even if you feel uncomfortable, people do. I mean, I've had some pretty big YouTubers on my show, And if you go back and watch some of they leave their old videos on their YouTube channel for a reason, because they go back and look at them and go, man, I can't believe I used to be that bad, but it's like anything, you try to improve all the time, and then you bring people up with you. But thanks again, guys. I appreciate it. And we look forward to all that you guys do, especially with the ISVA and the showcases, and can't wait to participate in the Sous Vide summits coming up in 2021.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
thanks so much, Darren.
All right.
Well, thanks again for joining us on the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I want to thank Jason and Mike again for being on. Make sure you check out the links below to the ISVA, the Sous Vide Summit, and also to Jason's course on how to self-publish your own cookbook. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure you follow us on our Fire and Water Cooking YouTube channel. And again, join us again on the next Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. See you again.